My name is Wayne Floyd, and I want to welcome you to the train room. The train room consists of 3 railroads: a short line railroad, a logging railroad, and a mainline railroad. The short line railroad is modeled somewhat after the Sierra Railroad. The logging railroad is modeled somewhat after the Pickering Lumber Company. The main line is the Southern Pacific. Southern Pacific was big here in Alameda, and thus that's why I picked the Southern Pacific Railroad. The room is 16 by 22. I built it in 1997. Now, I had just retired in May of 1997, and I needed something to do. And a friend of mine suggested that I might consider a model railroad. He had one in his basement, no scenery, just bench work. And he gave me a couple suggestions on what I should consider. And the main one was use code 100 track. The bench work is 1x4s, framing, covered with 3/4 inch plywood. The layout surface is fiberglass and aluminum foil paper covered with hydrocal. The rocks are molds made with hydrocal. From 1946 to 1950, we would, as a family, go to Pinecrest and camp, and then go to Lyons Dam, just below Long Barn, and Pickering Lumber Company came down, went across the dam at Lyons Dam, and then on down into Sonora. So I got fascinated by the Shay engines. Subsequently, in 1951, my parents bought property outside of Sebastopol, California, and we got our lumber from Sturgeon's Mill. So between Pickering and Sturgeon's Mill, that stimulated my interest in providing the mill and the track for the logging railroad. Now, the Sierra Railroad started at Oakdale and went all the way up to Standard through Sonora. And I also got interested in that, and subsequently got more interested in it because my wife's family had a lot of property in Tuolumne, and we started spending some time up there in the 70s. So that led to the short line railroad, which is a very small version of the Sierra, and the logging railroad. The main line I've modeled or fashioned somewhat after the Southern Pacific. None of this represents any one particular place. Part of it is just various industries along the coast route of the Southern Pacific. We have citrus groves down in Ventura County. We have oil being taken out of the ground in several places along the line. We have Salinas. So I have reefer trains. I have what they commonly call oil can trains. And then we have a passenger train that went from San Francisco down to Santa Cruz, and it was called the Del Monte. The turnouts are Shanohara. Main line is R8, and the yard's number 6. The switch machines are Tortoise. The track lengths are, for the main line, 205 feet. The siding length is 66 feet. The signal drivers are twin relays built by myself. The command and control for DC is Aristocrat, and for DCC, it's NCE. Computer control for the logging layout and the short line layout is NCE's mini panel. The mill and burner were scratch built by a friend, Ray Davis. The mill bunkhouses, engine house, scratch built by my friend Ernie Hanna. Oak Flat Station, built by Ernie Hanna. The Wells Fargo Bank, built by Ernie Hanna. The SP Freight Station, scratch built by Ernie Hanna. The mine powerhouse, built by Ray Davis. And all the other structures were built by myself. There's a switch that I can throw that turns it all DC or all DCC. And the purpose for that is that I had friends who don't have, that has engines that don't have decoders in them. So in order for them to be able to come and run their trains and stuff, I can switch it back and forth. Plus, most of the stuff that I buy comes DC to start with. And then I end up putting decoders in it. So it gives me an opportunity to run the stuff to see all the glitches that have to be ironed out before I put the decoders in, because it's simpler to clean up the problems with the engines in DC than it is with DCC. Let's talk a little bit about things that I feel are kind of unique to this layout. I have automated both the logging railroad and the short line, and this is done using NCE's mini panels. So I'm going to start out with the short line railroad, and I'm going to turn the switch on, power. Okay, that turns the power on to the blocks. And now I'm going to plug in the mini panel, and you will see the train start up and start to move. Now I don't have to do anything else. It's going to go all the way down to Oak Flat, pause, and then return. Now that's how I have it programmed. And to give you an example of what the program looks like, this is the program that it's running right now. And it simply steps. You take the cab, you plug it into this receptacle, which allows you to do the programming, and you do the exact same thing as if you were manually controlling it. You can tell it to speed up, slow down, ring the bell, shut the bell off, toot the horn, whatever. Stop, wait a while. All that is done with this program. Okay, now that we've talked about the Sierra Railroad, or the short line or branch line, the same holds true in terms of operation for the logging railroad. So I'm going to turn it on, turn the block on for the logging railroad. You can hear it start up. Now I'm going to plug in the mini panel or computer, and it will start coming down. Now what you're watching is the logging train bringing down logs to the mill. It could be manually brought around all the way to the unloading dock. So it doesn't necessarily have to run under computer control. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Mainline. This is the major town associated with the Mainline, and it represents a typical town somewhere along the coastline. You have your citrus, you have your downtown section, and so on. Now, the interesting thing about this town is that a number of the businesses are named after either my daughter-in-laws or my sons or my grandchildren. They all had to have a business in town. The service station, Associated Oil, is built by Mr. Hanna. The ice racks, built by myself. This building here is cast from molds, built by myself. So that's, again, a typical town along the coast route. So this is our gold mine operation. The head rig is from the Empire Mine located in Grass Valley. The lifting house is scratch built by myself. The powerhouse is built by Ray Davis. And the blacksmith shop is built by myself. It has full interior, as does the lifting house. Now the cables are not installed to the head rig because occasionally I have to take that section out, and to try to take it out and have them together was going to be a very awkward situation. So I've never put the cables in from the top of the head rig down into the lifting house. Maybe someday I'll do that. Okay, now we're going to talk about the engine facility. This island was built after the first part of the layout, which goes all the way around the room. And I realized that I didn't have an engine facility and I wanted to have one. So I added this peninsula or island. And inside the roundhouse, the interior is a full machine shop. Has all the machines in there, stamps, you name it, with the belt-driven, steam-powered engines in there. I can't take the roof off because I've got it nailed down because it started warping on me. One of the things that maybe you'll notice as you looked at the video, I have a lot of SP Tiger Stripe engines, and I love that combination that they did. Didn't last very long, but it's my favorite engine design, if you will, from a painting standpoint. You know, one of the things that I'd like to point out, I've had a lot of questions from people taking tours here, is the holders for the cabs. They're very simple. I looked at the commercial ones and I found that they wouldn't work for me. They were too high and in some cases even a little shaky. So these are quite simple. I've taken and cut 1.1/8 length of regular conduit pipe, stainless steel washers, and a nut and bolt, and spaced them up so the cabs just slide right down in. And I've had a lot of compliments on them. So it's something you might want to consider doing with yours. This is the end of our tour today. and I hope that you had an opportunity to learn something from it. I started out knowing nothing, and I built this on with a few hints or suggestions from people, but basically it was just a scratch build, non-prototypical, and it shows you that you can still have an enjoyment and detail stuff even though it's not prototypical. Thank you for watching.